So my next guest is my new friend. We're in a mastermind together. We're learning together. We're growing together. We're pushing the envelope together. And we've gotten to talking a few times, and we're kindred spirits in the fact that we're, both in our 50s. And we're both still pretty vibrant and we know that the next chapter is the best. And we want to just keep creating and keep creating at our edge. So we got to having a conversation about how do we do this in a world where the media is really important, where visuals are really important, and where the hustle and grind is basically a religion. How do we do it our way? So my guest, Jay Scherr, officially is the owner of Jay Scherr Business Consulting. He provides small business owners and entrepreneurs with the tools, strategies, and coaching and accountability to build a solid foundation to achieve success. This man has the track record to prove it. 30 years in corporate building unbelievably big organizations, big heart, completely dedicated to service of his clients. He's also the host of the Business Minds Coffee Chat, which is prolific, it's deep, and it just completely brings in the challenges that you are dealing with. So it is my pleasure to have Jay Scherr here with us today.
Well,
Jay?
thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it. What a beautiful introduction, and I'm thrilled to be here. And most importantly, I'm thrilled that you and I are connected and that we're able to have conversations like this and that you're part of my life. And I've shared this with you before. I've shared this with you off camera, but you and what you bring to the table pushes me to be a better human being. And I look to you as not only a role model, but as an inspiration and as a friend. So thank you for the opportunity to be here and share some time with you and your audience.
Well, thank you. And that will be enough for our episode today. We'll just leave it right there.
That was a good one.
Dude, like only people who move me get to come on my podcast, unless they're really, really famous and get me lots of clicks, which I have not fallen to. But no, the way you go about your business and the way you go about connecting and making people like me just now feel special is the reason you're here. But also because of our conversation. A couple of weeks ago, you and I were talking, we in our mastermind, we've been having guest after guest who are these young, handsome, shiny pennies of people, right? Who are just full of energy and just burning the candle at both ends, but have plenty of energy to do that, right? And they're hanging from cliffs without their shirts and talking about, all this kind of stuff, right? And you and I are like running with the pack, but running with the pack and trying to figure out how we want to run with the pack, because we have different responsibilities, we have different experiences, and frankly, our energy levels, right? You and people look at us and like, you're as energetic as a human being as I ever met. And that's why we got this conversation. Cause I was like, dude, how do you freaking show up this way? Right. So how do you show up like 110% every time I see you in every situation?
Well, first of all, you're giving me a tremendous amount of credit. I appreciate it. I'll accept it for the
It's
way
my
that you
experience,
are
right? That's my
delivering it.
experience.
Well, thank
My
you.
experience is that when I'm in a room with you, holy shit, look at this man. He is just got it. He's every light bulb is on. And you had a really good
So,
answer for that.
well, thank you. I'll just share with you that for me, I have to work at it. So I have different systems that I use. So there's things that I go through every single day that keep me grounded, that keep me energized, that keep me very focused. And I use my time as efficiently as possible as well. So as an example,
That's good because
no,
you're an operations savant. So I'm really glad you use your time well. But
yeah, so I do what I say I'm going to do.
yeah, tell me about your rituals. Tell me what you do to stay so in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, I wake up early in the morning. So I'm up by 4:15, 4:30 every morning. The very first thing that I do is there is a visualization process that I go through in my mind. So it's just the way that I start the day. I'm starting off on a positive foot before my feet actually hit the ground. I'm telling myself what kind of day I'm going to have and the type of person who I want to be able to show up my best self. So that's the very first thing that I do. Then I come into my office and I'm drinking water. So I have a bottle of water that I'm consuming and I read every single morning. As a matter of fact, the book that I read from is right here on my desk. And I've read this book now. It's called The Daily Stoic. I have read this book 4 years in a row,
Oh, wow.
every day without fail. And when I travel, the book comes with me. And the reason that I read it every single day and every single year is because I'm a different person every time I read it. So some people would look at this and say, well, if you've already read a book all the way through once, maybe twice, why would you read it again? Isn't that a waste of time? Couldn't you be spending your time reading another book? Well, I do read other books, but this particular book really helps to set me up. It helps me to think more logically
Mm.
and to see the world in the way that to me is most important, right? It gives me an appreciation for things. It gives me an appreciation for other people. It helps me see things differently and it helps me frame my own stories in a very different and empowering way. So I'll read every day. Then I have a gratitude journal that I write in every single morning. And it may be one sentence, it may be 10 sentences, it may be 2 pages, depends on how I'm feeling at that moment. But I stay with very simple things to be grateful for because these are things that we can all be grateful for that we see in front of us at all times. As an example, one of the first things that I write in that gratitude journal is that I'm grateful for waking up this morning. I mean, as simple as that, right? I actually woke up. How many people don't have that opportunity? So that's one of the things. Then it could be fresh air, right? It could be fresh water. It could be the people who enter my life, like you, as an example. When you and I first met, that went in my gratitude journal the next day because those are the things that they're important to me. They're things that I want to remind myself of because I truly do believe that if we're grateful, right, we can't hold the immense amount of negativity that so many people are consumed with when we're
Mm.
focused on what we're grateful for and we're focused on the positive aspects that overrides the negativity. And I've spent years, Mark, honing that and ensuring that the content that I'm consuming, the people that I'm having conversations with, those that I'm surrounded by on a regular basis, I'm very intentional about those things because I don't I don't want that negativity to come into my life and I don't want that determining the kinds of decisions that I'm going to make. It's too easy to allow that to happen. So that is the first part of my morning routine. Then after I finish the gratitude journal, it is out the door to the gym. And I work out every single day, 7 days a week. If for some reason I'm not able to get to the gym, I've got a little bit of equipment here at the house. I'll work out here. But one way or the other, my body's moving. And what I found with working out is that it really is it's my meditation time, as odd as that may seem. When I'm working out, I'm in my own space. So I wear headphones and I'm typically listening to something educational because I'm constantly wanting to learn. But that is a very freeing time for me. And although I'm pushing heavy weights and doing what I need to do to try to stay in shape, I'm also in my own space. And it's a great time for me to not only relax, and I know it's a bit of a, uh, you're relaxing on one hand, yet you're also putting your body under stress on the other hand, right? So there's a dichotomy there, but it's a dichotomy that's worked very well.
The only exercise I don't find relaxing is yoga.
Interesting. Okay.
I know that's funny. I find that very stressful. Everything else I do find relaxing, so I'm with you.
Yeah, no, I love that. And my wife has been trying to get me to do yoga with her for quite some time, and I just have not been able to get to the point of saying yes, because
Dude,
I know
at
that if
our
I
age, it's
say
calling. It's totally calling.
I know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. So I get my workout in, come back, I'm showered up, and then it's time to really check in and look at what are my to-dos, what am I focused on today, what are the commitments that I made, what appointments do I have lined up, and I'm checking emails, I'm responding, but I make sure that I'm not doing any of those things until I finish with the routine that I just mentioned to you, because I don't want someone else or someone else's problem or someone else's issue to now consume me and take me away from the things that have been so important to me. Because I know that if I'm going to show up as my best self for my clients, for my family, for conversations like this, I have to do those things. Those things are so critically important to me, and it's become a lifestyle change.
So let me ask you. So I know why, but I'm going to ask you, why is it so important to you? Why is that ritual so important to who you are during the day and how you interact with the world?
Well, that's a fair question, because when I wasn't doing it for so many years, I was not the type of person who I am today.
What were you?
I wasn't as fulfilled. I was filled more with ego. I wasn't showing up as my true self. I wasn't a I wasn't the happiest person in the world. I wasn't the easiest person to get along with. And I didn't necessarily know that at the time, Mark, because I wasn't self aware enough. And that was one of the big challenges that I faced. But when that hit me in the face, and when, I was having tougher conversations about me not being true to who I really am at my core and who I am at my heart and in my soul, once I made that switch, I started to prioritize and realize the things that were going to move me closer or move me back to who I am. And today, life is just so much more fulfilling. It's like, the best way to explain it is that I can actually breathe more deeply. The air is cleaner. There is more clarity in my world. I have better conversations with the people that I work with, the people that I love, and I wouldn't change anything. And I also wouldn't change the experiences that I went through in the past, because I needed to go through those to learn to become who I am right at this moment. And I only have this moment. So this is it.
Yeah, for me, that morning routine, my morning routine starts a little bit later than yours, but I have my morning routine. I need to get the oxygen mask on myself. I need to figure out, I wake up grumpy. Uh, not I, I wish I'm a spiritual guy. I'm a positive coach kind of guy, and I still wake up grumpy. So I need my time in the morning to get my shit together, to take out the cobwebs of whatever's in my head, right? And replace it with something that's going to be more useful. Now, for me, the benefit is joy, connection, spontaneous love, all these things that I did not know existed when I was too busy to take the time to be grateful, to be connected, to figure out who I am, what I want, how do I want to choose to be today, right? So that morning routine, it doesn't have to be as structured as yours, but
Mhm.
whatever anybody can do to just kind of fill the cup before they go out to give I think is a game changer.
Yeah, I love the way that you just said that. I think that's a very powerful point, being able to fill that cup before you go out to serve. Because if we're not doing that, then we are showing up with a half empty cup or possibly even an empty cup. And then you're throttling on reserves. Right now, you're working on fumes, and we can never fully be who we're meant to be, we can never fully serve at our greatest potential when we're operating at such a low level.
But
So whether it's
we can pretend in our 20s and our 30s, we can pretend to be our best selves. We can show up after being out all night and just showering and jumping in the car, right? And swigging some coffee. And we can show up all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. The ravages of life and responsibilities and midlife force us, if we want to stay competitive, if we want to stay impactful, if we want to stay vibrant, we have to start feeding ourselves good food, good things to read, right? Good people, because those motivations and that energy just leaves us. So it's a conscious choice to be who we're going to be in our 40s and 50s, where I think it's a real default, earlier in life.
Oh, that is so true. The challenge is that we don't realize that when we're in our 20s. And even if we had someone who could share, like if I was able to go back and have that conversation with my 20-year-old self, my 20-year-old self wouldn't listen to me.
Yeah, tell you
Right? My 20-year-old self would look at me and say, "Hey, that's great for you.
great pops.
I've got this figured out." Right? I know what I'm doing. And I went through those years, as I know that you did, right? I mean, I was in a corporate career. I'm playing in a rock band. I'm playing in clubs Thursday through Saturday nights, burning the candle at both ends, showing up to work early in the morning, traveling, doing all of those things. And I thought that I had it all figured out, right? I was the guy, right? And you don't realize at that point what you're actually doing to not only your body, but what you're doing to your mind. And it's a slow process in many cases, but ultimately you get to a point where whether it's burnout occurs, whether it's difficult conversations, that is absolutely not sustainable. There's just no way that it is. And I look around today when I see people walking around who abused themselves early on in life because they really felt that they could do anything. And they're walking around today with all types of pains and woes. And, they're going to rehab or, whatever it happens to be for them. You see the wear and tear. So if you want to be sustainable, if you want to be in this for as long as you possibly can and show up empowered and feeling good, right? And having the right amount of energy, you've got to do the things that you talk about every day, which is watching what you're eating, right? Consuming the right types of foods, consuming the right materials, surrounding yourself with the right people who are going to challenge you, but are going to challenge you to grow. That's the greatest thing in the world, is when we can structure our lives in such a way that we're receiving those challenges. We realize that we're living life to the fullest and that life is happening for us, not to us.
Yeah, I love that. I love that switch in perspective, that everything that happens for me. If I just decide that it is a friendly universe, that God is a friendly God, it is, to quote, sort of quote Albert Einstein, it changes the way I look at the world. So for me, the only tens piece is I really no longer can address everything that comes across my plate. I cannot say yes to everything. In order for me to be effective, I have to pick and choose where I place my time and attention and what's going to get my energy. Do you do the same thing?
I do. I do have a difficult time with that because I've always been the yes person. I've said yes to everything for so long because I wanted to be, and it's just part of my DNA. I wanted to be that giver. I wanted to be that person who would show up, that could do for others without the expectation of receiving something in return.
That was your chosen, that wasn't part of your DNA. That was your chosen persona that you wanted to portray to the world, that you are
That's
Johnny
fair.
Scott, and they can count on you for everything and all things.
Yes, that you're okay. Let me rephrase that then, because you're absolutely right. Right. That was chosen, but it was part of how I identified myself for so long,
I only can
right?
call you
So
on it because that was me, right? Like totally. Like all things to all people at whatever cost it was worth it.
yes. But then you finally, I finally realized, because a switch went off where I said that, look, in order for me to be able to accomplish the things that I want, to be able to prioritize things that really are meaningful to me, and to be able to devote my time and my energy to those things, I'm going to have to say no, because anything that I say yes to means that I am unable to do something else or give something else my full attention. I used to think that, oh, well, I can multitask, right? I could do it all, right? And I can do it just enough, because I figured out through my behaviors and through my habits that I could still produce something that was okay, and no one would probably say anything, but I was able to handle all these different things, right? But I was fooling myself, because that really wasn't the case. If in order for me to deliver excellence, I have to be all in, and I have to prioritize, and I had to learn to say no. And saying no was not an easy thing to do. Where I live today is following the principles of if you've read the book Essentialism, where it's more about doing less but better. So doing less but better. So how can I structure my time, my energy, my the things that I agree to do in such a way that they are essential to me being able to move my goals, my dreams forward?
What moved you? One of the jokes I say is that essentialism, deep work, the one thing, right? All these books that talk about focusing and really setting boundaries and doing all those things, to people pleasers like you and me, who are all things to all people, finding the self-esteem to make that shift is one of the hardest things. I always say that people need to read only tens to make all those other books work, because there really has to be an internal fortitude to actually be able to guard your time and attention that way, to be able to do what you did.
So true. What I had to do was to start to tell myself a different story. I had to look at myself and frame who I am in a
But
different
what
way,
prompted that? Why did you make the switch?
because I found that my plate was so full that I was pulled in way too many directions. And because I knew that I couldn't say no, that was a red flag. I didn't realize it early enough
I
on,
would
though.
say no if I
Had
wanted
I,
to. I just don't want to.
right, I don't want to, right? So we're always justifying. Yet there's a reason why I'm doing this. And I never wanted to disappoint anyone. And I felt that if I said no to something, someone was going to look at me differently, right? Here, all this time, they looked at me as someone who says yes, who makes things happen, who gets things done, who can always be counted on. And all of a sudden, I'm going to change that image of myself in someone else's eyes. That was almost too much to bear. But then once
By
I
the way,
started,
that's the ticket right there. To be able to actually walk through that fear of disappointing people is the superpower you need to actually start to take control of your life.
yes. And the interesting thing is, Mark, the perception that we have that someone else is going to feel a certain way about us because we choose to say no or say yes is flawed, because that person really isn't thinking about us anyway. They're appreciative of the fact that we are doing what we're doing. But if we don't do something, it's not like it's the end of the world for that other person, right? They're not spending their time consumed with thinking about Jay or thinking about Mark. We think they are. And we think that, oh my gosh, if I don't do this thing for this person, they're never going to talk to me again, or they're going to have a really poor impression of me. Not true, right? If they truly are a meaningful relationship, they'll understand it. And if they don't understand it, they weren't meant to be
See, that's the
in a
piece,
relationship with
right
me to
there.
begin with.
Right there, because one of the things, when I do my recovering people pleasers anonymous meetings, is that you train people to treat you the way they treat you. So there's going to be a contingent of people who are only in your life because you are all things to all people, and they counted on you to do those things. Those people are going to go away. Then there's other people who are used to you doing all things to all people. But when you set boundaries, they're like, okay, good. He's setting boundaries. That's cool. Then there's going to be the champions, the people who really love you. It's like, I've been waiting for you to put yourself on the list, right? But those people who go away, you want that dead weight. You want those people who, had their hooks in you, that you had a bargain with them. I'll do all things for you if you stay in relationship with me. Let them go.
It's very freeing. It's very freeing. And it's getting to that point is the deep work that you talk about, right? So, going back to what your question was, I had to start to view myself in a different light. I had to really start to reframe my own view of who I am and how I show up. And that was critically important, because if I didn't do that part of it, then every decision I made that was against how I saw myself in my mind, it was incongruent. And it was a very uncomfortable feeling. So now I'm at a place where I'm okay with that. I actually celebrate that, because I know that when I'm saying no to something, that's really allowing me to say yes to the things that really are most important to me, or are going to make a significant impact in someone else's life. And that's what this is all about. That's what's important to me today.
Beautiful. So let me switch gears with you. Get it off of Jay. Let's talk about the people that you help. We're at the tail end of the COVID epidemic, right? Where things are starting to open up, but it's been a tough year and a half for people who are trying to run businesses, and that's what you do. You help people run businesses. What are people dealing with now? What are some of the challenges that you're really working on with people these days?
Yeah, the some of the most challenging ones are figuring out how I continue to serve in a market that has changed drastically. So where I'm not able to connect with the same clients that I was working with before, right? Because either they don't need my services now because they need to channel their funds differently, or the business is looking to change their strategic direction because they realize that the product or service that they were offering to the marketplace is not the same priority that it was before. So, how can I take my existing company? How can I pivot that so I can still continue to serve and thrive, but in a different way? There may be a company, as an example, that was traditionally using face-to-face communications as a way to serve their client base, but today that wouldn't necessarily work. So they offer a hybrid type service today. So all of those types of things, restructuring businesses the right way, ensuring that they're lean, that they have the right people in the right positions. Because if you truly want to be able to sustain and be able to thrive through difficult times, you have to be smart about the way that you have your business structured. If you're loaded up with too much overhead, as an example, or you aren't maximizing your purchasing ability the best way, if you're not looking at areas where you can optimize, that is going to be a challenge for you. There's going to be a point where you realize that you have too much going out and not enough coming in.
So
So those are
COVID's been
the
a wake up. COVID and the economy has been a wake up call to really look at every corner of your business to make sure that it's efficient and lean and working in the right direction. Where before it might have been fat and happy and missing some of that stuff.
it has, and I think that beyond, obviously we don't want anyone to suffer or to go through the challenges of health that COVID brings. What this has done from a business perspective is it has really forced businesses to get very creative. And those that are surviving, those that are pushing through this, have been able to be flexible enough where they've been able to change business models in some cases, but they've been very creative with their offering, whether it's a service or a product. And that's a positive thing, right? I look at that as a good thing because it was a necessary shift in thinking, because there are too many businesses out there that were fat and happy, if you will, right? Where they had very deep benches and they weren't maximizing the assets that they had in place, right? They weren't maximizing the people and the human capital and really taking the best ideas and putting those into practice. Well, this has forced companies to really go within, reach out for help, and work with the talent that they have to come up with the best ideas and the best solutions. And they're more willing to actually execute on those than they ever have in the past, or at least in the past short time in history, let's say.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of willingness to do things that people weren't willing to, including my own clients. They weren't willing to talk about or even entertain. And then when COVID hit, it's like, okay, we got to figure something out. So let's throw it against the wall, see if it sticks. And it's been really an interesting thing to see the creativity and the renaissance that's come out of all this pain and hell that we've been in. Very cool.
It has, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So Jay, if people really want your help in optimizing their organizations, where can they find you?
Best place to go is my website, which is jscherrbusinessconsulting.com. And that really is my catch-all for everything. So if you're interested in checking out any of the social channels that I'm on, or if you're interested in checking out Business Minds Coffee Chat, you'll find everything there.
I suggested that you follow Jay on LinkedIn. He posts quite a bit of really good content on LinkedIn, and it's you have a cup of coffee, spend a little time with Jay and whatever guest he has, and you'll get some free insights and wisdom. So I appreciate that, Jay. Thanks for sharing yourself. I really wanted to have this conversation just about how to really keep our impact going as our careers start to get long in the tooth, but we really still have a lot to offer. How do we do that? And you're such an example for me that, so thank you for sharing everything that you do here.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the platform. And I would say the same about you as well. As I said at the beginning, I do look at you as an inspiration, as a role model, and I love what you're doing. And you are very prolific as well out on social channels and putting excellent content out. So thank you for all that you do and helping all of us continue to thrive through midlife and beyond.
So there you have it. Jay just did my new intro and outro for the podcast. Appreciate it, Jay. To everybody else, take care of yourself. As Jay said, drink lots of water. Gratitude list. Put yourself on the list. I love you. Have a great rest of the day.